everyone. This is Glenn Maleyko. I'm Superintendent for Dearborn Schools. Welcome back to another episode of Happenings in Dearborn Schools. This happens to be our 11th episode, and we're very excited. We have some excellent guests here today with us. We have Rose Aldubaily, the Director of the ELL Department, English Language Learners in the school district, and we have Kellie Bugajski, and she is an ELL trainer within the school district. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Glad that you could make it. I'm so excited to have you today. Yes.
Wait to be honest.
I know. We were just talking about that, right? So, big question though. Coffee. How do you take your coffee, and what is your favorite brand of coffee, Rose? I know you're an avid big
So
coffee
I need
drinker.
to think about this one because it is
Okay.
a very serious topic.
This is true.
Correct, because it sets the tone for the day and for the year for me. So I start my day with a Tim Hortons Dark Roast Double Double, extra large.
Okay. And we're not getting any advertising revenue, just so you know.
No,
This is not a
absolutely not.
non-commercial,
No.
but
No, we all have
although
our
we should maybe
vices.
consider some
That's right.
endorsements, right?
I believe that I should be a shareholder.
Yeah, there we go. So, and everybody knows you love hot coffee, so that's why I had to ask you that important question. But as we go in, I mentioned ELL. We hear the term ELL, ESL. Sometimes I hear bilingual. Can you tell me what those terms mean and what are they? Because I know for parents, educators like to use acronyms a lot. PSYOP, these things that come up. But can you explain what is an EL, English language learner?
So, what we traditionally used to know as a bilingual student is now what we identify as an English language learner. Bilingual students really define students who are proficient in two languages, whereas our English language learner identification talks about the fact that we may be bringing a second language with us. We may have been exposed to a second language, but we're learning the English language to a proficiency levels. It's not to say that all of our ELs don't speak English, but we're working on advanced proficiency for all students who are identified as ELs. ESL tends to be a term that's used more for the adult education, but we use it interchangeably for our kids, our K-12 kids, but the proper term, the current term, would be the EL identification.
And some of that I know changed too through the federal government, because I remember the Elementary Education Act had bilingual, then it switched over to ESL, and so some of that is being directed by federal initiatives. Would that be accurate?
Correct. So the federal government would still define an ELL as an LEP, which would be limited English proficiency. We don't necessarily view our kids as limited English proficient students. We see them as English language learners, like all students are. So we're always progressing in our proficiency in developing the English language. And so EL is a state identified term that better fits what we feel our students are in the state.
So what do you see as your role then in the school district as the director of ELL education?
To help advance the proficiency in the academic achievement of 10,000 of our kids, reflecting 51% of the population.
Okay, because we're getting, last count we were close to just over 20,000, and now we're over 10,000 ELL. So that is a lot of students in the district and providing support. So Kellie, your role in the district then as a trainer, what do you see as your role and the things that you do to help support your supervisor here, Ms. Aldubaily?
Working with, we have bilingual resource teachers in every building, and so working with them, kind of using that model of we work with them, then they work with the teachers in the classroom in addition to classroom support. But working with them on strategies that they would use with their students, with the WIDA testing that we're just finishing up, the big assessment they have to have every year. And it's just kind of like, we work with them, teaching them strategies, and then they go into the building, because it would be impossible for us to get into every single building because we have so many students.
So there's another acronym, WIDA. What does that mean?
WIDA.
What is that?
WIDA stands for World Instructional and Design Assessment.
Okay.
So our world-class instructional design and assessment. And so it's assessing students' English language proficiency, and that way when we get their scores back, we know what support that they need. And our ultimate goal is to exit the kids using the WIDA score and state assessments so that they can be college and career ready. That's ultimately our goal.
One of my big things that I've been involved with is visibility in the schools, and I know I've come for late starts and things, and I've come to different meetings and late starts, and I've seen you providing training directly in several locations actually, or other members of your team with the ELL team. What are an example of something you would do with the teachers as far as training to provide support to them?
So I've spent some time at staff meetings, late starts, sometimes after school with new teachers and other teachers. One thing would be, our big focus right now is content and language objectives, working with the teachers on supporting students not only with what is their target in the content, but where are they going with the language? What language specifically are they teaching students that day? So that the teachers are clear and the students are clear.
And I know for the objectives, just to let for audience, parents and that, if they go into class, they would, during the day or even after school, they would see that the teachers are listing these objectives. And I know that's been a big push from your department, Rose, is to try to develop this consistency across the district, or trying to some conformity, not saying exactly the same everywhere, but we know that we're doing it across the board, across the district. But so what are your thoughts on that?
So all students are expected to, it's our expectation as professionals to teach the Common Core state standards. And so when we're talking about a content objective, we're talking about what part of the Common Core are we addressing when we're delivering instruction. What can the child expect to master in that lesson so that there is no surprise? When we begin a lesson and throughout the lesson, we touch base with our kids saying, here's what you can expect to learn from me, and here's what I can expect to assess you on. Our language objective, which we use for ELs, but it's beneficial for all students in developing language, then works on the development standards of language development. And so both are critical to the learning of students, and they're both expected. And so what does it do? It drives our instruction, it focuses our lesson, and it really allows kids to be partners in their learning.
So if we had a family coming, English is a second language, or maybe they don't speak English at all, their native language is another area, we've got your department right at the central office location at Audette. And, so what kind of support do we provide to families in addition to, just the instruction in the class?
So when Kelly was talking about bilingual resource teachers, right before that I was talking about the terminology and how it's changed.
Okay.
The title's deliberate with our resource teachers, that they are bilingual resource teachers, because they do speak the native language of the minority language in Dearborn, which would be Arabic. And so they are there at every building to support parents in registration, the screening of the assessment for students, the parent education and parent involvement component, and then they can come to us for anything. We've partnered with Access, we're partnering with the state for outreach programs. We're there for the summer programs to support them through many of the endeavors and a lot of the involvement, parent involvement and engagement pieces that are happening at the building level. So we're at central office, but we have a representative at every building that's there to reach parents and build those relationships immediately.
So Kelly, I also, this past Saturday and several Saturdays I've gone into, the administration building, and I know there's different grants and opportunities, but I mean, it's packed. It was packed at the central office this past Saturday. We had teachers in there for different programs. They were learning. Some of them were in there studying ELL, and part of that is they're learning on the weekends. We're helping to reduce protect instruction in the class by reducing substitute teachers, not so much on a budget as the big concern, but more just about, making sure we get high quality instruction. So can you tell me about some of these weekend or after school classes or courses that our teachers are involved in and what opportunities they have?
A lot of them are like the ELL classes will be focusing on EL strategies that teachers would use in their classroom. And you are absolutely right. They're dedicating their time to come in for many hours on Saturdays. I think it's like 9 or 10 Saturdays, one of the classes might be. And very dedicated teachers. We're always impressed with their commitment. The advantage is that they can learn on Saturdays, take these strategies, go in the classroom, implement the strategies in the classroom, come back to class, and have dialogues with their colleagues about what's working, what's not working, what do they want to change, what successes have they had, and share with others. So we have 3 of us that are working with the universities to provide those scholarships, some of the financial aid, that type of thing, and just that's been an ongoing thing. It's amazing. Every year we have enough teachers for 2 or 3 full classes.
Full classes. So we are giving them some financial support then as well to try to encourage them to go become certified as an ELL teacher. Is that correct? Or?
So in addition to helping them tap into federal resources like the Teach Grant, and working with universities to give them some scholarships, we also give a tuition reimbursement for people working towards an ESL endorsement. And it's not limited to people who are hired in the department. It's for all teachers in the district, because with 10,000 students, we're hard pressed to find a classroom where we don't have students who are identified as ELs. And it helps. We have several of our gen ed teachers who are involved in our EL classes, who are looking to work to become endorsed in a classification and an endorsement that they know is beneficial to the students that they serve every day. The key, I would say, to the difference in what we do is that a lot of times we think that it's a native language instruction approach, but what it really is being very deliberate in making sure that we integrate reading, writing, listening, and speaking in all of our lessons, and engaging students with hands-on activities and really building background and allowing kids to have those collaborations and those peer discussions with the kids in their class, so that they get that deeper level of understanding, and we allow them to scaffold that information so that they can reach the academic levels and the goals that we've set.
And that's what they're doing in those classes.
Okay.
They're supporting the teachers of that
Supporting
through
the teachers
SIOP
to-
and language and literacy and just
All the
best
educational.
instructional
Okay.
practices.
So I know, like, when I was interviewing for superintendent, it is in my planning and the goals for the district, and I know some of that work was already started with our previous superintendent, who's here in the audience as we're taping, right? Mr. Whiston. But one of the things we had looked at, and I know when I came in July, we were at about just over 20%, maybe close to 24% of staff that were certified ELL. Now my understanding is that we're growing to over 30%, so we're getting close to that percentage of 51% English language learners, and now we're getting over 30, so we're getting closer. Would you suggest that we're getting close? And I know that's been a goal of yours.
Absolutely. One of the things that we did different was that we've now made the effort to meet one-on-one with every new hire who is making the commitment to get their ESL endorsement. So I can tell you that we've met with 72 teachers. So 72 of our new hires are making that commitment to get their ESL endorsement, which has upped the percentage, which is bringing us closer in the gap of how many teachers are certified to teach and what percentage of students do we have.
And in addition to that, we have a dedicated person who's really in our department that's working with new teachers to make sure that they're on the right track, that they're with the strategies or whatever help they need in their classroom.
Well, the other thing I just want to mention in closing before we finish out here, and again, I'm very thankful that you're both here today to talk about the program and the great work that you do, is I also know that we often get contacted from other districts, and not only the state, but I've seen from Arizona and other places across the country, and it seems like they seem to want to know, about the Dearborn model and what's going on. Do you get a lot of requests for those sort of things?
We do. We've actually had quite a few districts this year reaching out across the state, and we've had, I want to say, Texas, Arizona, Florida, and New York have also reached out.
Wasn't Wisconsin one of them too?
In Wisconsin, this year alone, asking for visitations to come look at the model that we have, because it is nationally recognized. And the girls aren't just leaders in our district, they're national presenters. I mean, they're looked at as the gurus of what's happening.
We actually are trained in SIOP, trainer of trainers through the state sponsored, and we run in the summer, we do SIOP strategies, academic language for different groups of teachers around the state.
That's great, thank you. Well, I have another question on the later side. We asked you about your coffee. What about pie? What is your favorite, I know something, Cheesecake Factory, am I hearing Rose?
Any cream-filled pie will
Okay.
So,
All right.
coconut cream is my favorite.
Okay, I'll have to
So-
remember
The
that.
one at
That's right.
Cheesecake Factory
And
is
you have
really
it,
good
you
too.
So, and it's on
know.
record, so I can play it for you over.
And again, we're not endorsing any certain company.
Oh,
All right, well, another episode of Happenings in Dearborn Schools. This is our 11th taping of the episode. Again, I want to thank the whole Dearborn High AV crew here, and all the students are doing a great job. I want to thank Mr. Shigfree, Mr. Doley, Mr. Mustonen, and the Board of Education for their support. They've been helping to promote this program. So until next time, we'll see you. Stay safe, stay warm, and snow, stay away.